I'm on. It's unblocked.
Yeah,
I got Diction Uno with me.
yes,
Freaking
sir.
awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you
man,
for having me on.
let's go ahead. Absolutely, brother. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on.
no
Uh,
problem.
let's go ahead and show them the unblocked trade bot. That's how you know what time it is.
Yo.
So, Unblocked is a conversation. It's a conversation show where we are talking about blockchain technology. So we cover cryptocurrency, altcoins, the protocols behind it, oracles, staking, yielding, dexes, just whatever.
Uh-huh.
Anything that you think is cool. I usually start off with the news. We kind of
Okay.
look at
Nice.
some different articles and some
Sure.
different, things that are popping up and trending. Um, and then I talk about some, cryptocurrencies that I'm interested in.
Okay.
Kind of
Yeah.
current stuff that I've been looking at that I've been thinking was cool. And then we try to run over, just general information, just cool stuff. I was going to talk to
Sure.
you about the book that you were telling me about the other
Um.
one.
The book.
Yep, you said that you had a book that was a
Ah.
really cool investment book, and I was like, "Oh, wait, don't
Yeah,
tell me
just
right
personal
now."
finance in general. Yeah, that Tony Robbins book. I got the audio book, but yeah, and that led to some other people that I think people could really gain knowledge from on decision making, even though they're from the investment world, whether it's running your business or going towards whatever goal you have. They wrote a lot on that, but they could also guide you towards investment in any asset class, whether it's the crypto space or any other asset class of planet, essentially.
That's fresh. That's fresh. What's the name of the book?
The one that I'm reading right now, the name of the book I had mentioned before was called Money Master the Game. It's a very long book by Tony Robbins, but it's really dope because he gets into he wrote after 2008 to help people not repeat that if something comes up like that again. But the main dude he gets in it in the book I'm reading, his principles, is this dude Ray Dalio, and he's the manager of the biggest hedge fund on planet Earth. This book, Principles, though, not only tells you his life story and how he started a hedge fund, being just a dude in an apartment in Queens, and he was a golf caddy, right? And got into that. His dad was a jazz musician, stay-at-home mom, so he doesn't come from any sort of silver spoon background, and like governments go to him to invest their money. But this dude takes it to another level because he really goes back in time to make his decision. And you could learn, if you never invested a penny in any asset, you could learn a lot about how to structure your business, manage it, your relationships, how to manage the risks in your life. Because a lot of how he balances investments, he applies these formulas and even through AI and different stuff into how he runs his company and even his life and his philanthropy, which he's really big into. And he used to just stay behind the scenes and not want to talk, but it's dope because he's like in his 70s now, and he's at the point in his life where he's like, look, now I'm ready to just be like, I got all the money I need. My hedge fund's closed. You can't even get into it. I got all the money set aside for everyone else, and me and my wife are just doing charity. And now it's time for me to take all the shit that I learned from, he's a real good example of, started from the bottom, now we here or whatever. And he basically is like, I'm going to give you that knowledge and everyone that knowledge you want so you can apply it to your life and get the best out of, your goals and aspirations. But I mean, you can learn a lot from investing, let's be real, from reading this stuff too. But I think that whether or not you're going to invest in anything, I could argue everything's an investment from your time to anything else, though. He's a really great dude to follow on social media, to listen to his interviews, read his books. You'll learn a lot from him.
I like inspiring dudes like that's fresh, dude. I'm gonna check it
Yeah.
out. I'm
He's been
actually.
mentoring Diddy lately too, which is wild because you wouldn't think of this cat as the type of cat be hanging out with Diddy necessarily, right? Like on a surface level. But yeah, he had this one interview where he's kicking it with Diddy, like mentoring him on how to like alter his business decision processes and all that. So I like that too. He seems like a cat where like he could kind of go build with anybody, as long as it's on some like progression and some building, like he's all good with building from anyone, from anywhere, which is kind of dope. I like that about him.
Slick. Yeah, man. It seems like these new style investors are starting to adopt that philosophy. You know, that there's money to be made everywhere, and that, you know, pretty much all markets are, you know, bullish markets if you sit there and look at it. You know, if there's somebody who is making something and people are on it, you know, from little peep, you know, all the way up to, you know, I don't know, freaking selling peanut butter. You know, there's there's a market for everything, you know, and you're going to find a different demographic in every single different business market that you go to. So being a chameleon and being able to go in there and sell juggalos what they want at a juggalo show, and then be able to turn around and freaking create a marketing campaign for mayonnaise, you know, people who are versatile like that, they're the ones who are really hitting it. And I think Gary Vee was the first one who really caught my attention, who was, you know, kind of this dude who you weren't really expecting to be like that, you know, or to have as much outreach and pull as he did. And then you'd see him with everybody. I'm like, what the? Gary Vee's with that?
I really like that guy too, and he's somebody who kind of like got me. It was kind of a gateway into more inspirational, motivational people like the Tony Robbinses and such. Like, he does a good job of connecting to people in our generation and younger. I feel like he's dope, but that is something that you point out. It's like it's a parallel. If you start, I've spent a lot of the last 2 years, especially, just studying like not only how successful people operate in the books they recommend, but them themselves in the interviews, to be like, how can I model some of this behavior to get where I want to go, right? And a lot of that's because I started doing that, and then they were like, look, I studied this, and then I applied it and tweaked it to fit me or whatever, right? And that's one common thing. They're all about, like, everything boils down to relationships at the end of the day, right? Like, business-wise, whatever, even whether you're on Wall Street or Main Street, ultimately, it's about how you connect with people, how you manage your time. And really, when we invest in things, whether it's cryptocurrency or equities or gold or whatever it is, it's really just an abstract representation of like an actual functional technology, an actual product, an actual company. And all those things are there to be used by people. They're all created by people. So it really just all goes back to relationships and connections and how you maneuver that.
Networking, period, you know. And that's big business right there. You know, the more people that you involve inside of what you're doing. I think I was having this conversation with Jimbo the other day.
Nice.
You know, the more people that you involve inside of your business, the more people that you have inside of your network, the more shoulders that you tap on, you know, and that you do things for, and that, you know, you create this symbiotic relationship. You know, people. That's how things grow. That's how things culminate. You know, that's grassroots at its finest, right there.
Definitely.
You know?
Shout out to Jimbo. I got a video shoot with him in a couple of weeks.
Oh man, he's doing some amazing work right now too. So
really great work. I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm even just gonna give a little bit out of the way, but we're going to somewhere I really dig, which is this. There's a Stonehenge replica in Maryhill, Stonehenge. And we're going to do a lot of the shoot at the Stonehenge replica there. And it was like made by a mason at the particular laid lines and all that kind of crazy stuff. So I think it'll be pretty dope.
Yeah. We're going to be on the lookout for that. I can't wait. And you know, it's the cool thing about Jimbo is he really fancies himself as a director. So, you know, he's going to do some big stuff with that. You know, let me know.
I really like the work I've been seeing him do.
Let me know when you're shooting it. I'll come out.
Yeah. I think the 17th is gonna we're getting my homie Malvito, who did my logo and everything, and he's also really talented rapper. And then the homie Tripolar is on the song, so we're gonna go all link up. I think Jim's gonna go out there the day before and stay, and then my homie Malvito stays out that way, like in Hood River or something. So I and Tripolar gonna go out there on the 17th. But yeah, definitely it'd be dope if you come out. It'd be fun.
Nice.
That place is pretty significant too. I did my first Reiki attunement ceremony there with like some real powerful wizards and witches, if you will, or whatever. Like, you know, shamans and shawomen. So like, there's a real crazy energy to that, like that spot, you know.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump in here. A little crypto. I'm gonna bust out the news. Started out. We got the Coinbase direct listing set for April 14th. Coinbase is going down April 14th. One second. Let me switch this real quick. I'm going to do this like this instead.
It's okay if you give go.
Maybe it won't let me do it like that.
Time for the checkup. Time for the checkup.
It doesn't like the way that I did that. Let me bring it back.
What are your thoughts on that IPO? As far as like, I ought to ask because I'm curious on people's opinions. I have mine at this point, but like, let's say, you know, you don't traditionally. I guess it wouldn't matter whether you traditionally invest in equities or if you're just strictly crypto. What do you think as far as buying into stocks in the actual Coinbase IPO? Do you think, and if you do think, if you are bullish on doing it at any point, do you think that, you know, people should jump in right away when it goes public to get on that wave, or would you wait till it settles down?
Well, I think as of right now, it's going to be extremely expensive. You know,
Yeah.
I can't remember what the initial offering that they were thinking for Coinbase was, but I thought it was around $100. Does that sound right?
Yeah. The market cap's massive too. I can't remember. It's in the mad billions. And honestly, coming from like the last few years of doing equities before really getting heavy into the crypto space, in my opinion, especially under this kind of like crazy bull market we're in, or bubble, if you will, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's my take on it. I think that obviously it could be a great thing to add to your portfolio long term because it'll probably track Bitcoin. So say the Bitcoin ETF doesn't get done. I mean, I think it will, but let's say it doesn't, and you're trying to like put your portfolio together and you're like, hey man, Bitcoin's eating gold's market cap. Well, you could put like Coinbase in there and it'll kind of behave like having some Bitcoin in your portfolio, you know, stock wise or whatever. But yeah, I would wait till it settles down, quite frankly, because I think it'll jump way up and then correct itself, you know, in the next few months, and you can get a nice discount on it.
That's what I'm really thinking, is that it's going to take so long for them to really kind of get it all together, have it actually working right.
Yeah.
And for things to level out and people realize that, you know, the crypto market doesn't follow the stock market, but you're going to see a lot of crypto kind of coming to the stock market. You know, you saw with Riot Blockchain and how well Riot Blockchain did.
Oh, I did nice on that one. I had that in my portfolio for a minute. It definitely did pretty well.
You know, when you look at things like Riot and you know how excited people get about, you know, crypto.com and Coinbase and all the other exchanges, Binance, you know, Binance is applied. When you think about the fact that investors are starting to want to merge both gaps, you know, that they have cold feet in crypto, but they think that the stock market is somehow different. So they want to get involved, but they don't want to get involved. I think it's going to really excite those investors.
Right. And it's wild because here's the thing that I would recommend personally for me, what I do, and obviously I started with getting into, because really when you talk about the stock market or the market in general too, you can invest in commodities. You could, and a lot of what the Ray Dalio has this strategy, the Holy Grail, where you balance everything. So I had investments in REITs and gold and silver, copper, you know, commodities. So I have real estate, even some foreign currency exposure for things that aren't as overprinted and are on the come up, like the Canadian dollar, mixed in with the stocks and everything. But I think that there's a few things you should watch as a crypto investor, because like you said, they don't follow each other that closely, but they're not completely decoupled, because the only thing that could end the bull market early would be a black swan event. And I mean, we're in a tenuous place in the market. I personally think that we're not going to see a big downturn and crash for another 6 months to a year. But I recommend, like, you don't have to track it as closely as somebody in stocks, but if you're in crypto in any kind of meaningful way, I recommend checking the VIX every once in a while, which is just the fear gauge of the stock market. Because if it starts going up into the 30s, you want to be careful that, you know, it doesn't crash, because we've seen, you know, if the stock market completely crashes, it's kind of the only time they're not really decoupled. And in the environment we're in, I would say that, you know, it wouldn't hurt you or waste a lot of time to keep your eye on the VIX index, which is just the fear index of the market. And with the inflation things right now, the 10-year bond yield, because that's scaring a lot of people. If that starts to creep into the threes or fours, I would, you know, obviously look at the other on-chain data and all the good TA and macro stuff in the crypto space too. But I think that whether or not you buy stocks, it's not a bad idea to just kind of glance at those tools every so often and have a general idea on whether a big crash is coming, because, you know, it can help protect you if that happens, because it would definitely end the party early for, you know, crypto for this cycle anyway, you know.
No, I completely agree. And I think other crypto stocks that are doing really well, that show kind of a model of what could happen with crypto stocks are things like AABB, where Asia Broadband. Are you familiar with them, with the gold-based stock?
No, I'm surprised that isn't on my radar. You know what I used in my portfolio to have some extra exposure and balance for gold was MicroStrategy, because after they made those big buys, it tracked pretty consistently with Bitcoin. It wasn't 100% by any means, but it definitely tracked to it. But no, I'm not familiar with them. Is that like a mining play kind of?
Yeah, Micro was great. Micro is definitely a great stock, and it performed well for a while. Yeah, so AABB, Asia Broadband, is a gold-based cryptocurrency. They have their own mine in Mexico. They're based out of Argentina and somewhere else, I believe it was. People had been tracking them down and kind of hunting them to make sure that everything was legit. And so they launched their stock first, then launched a cryptocurrency that's a stable coin that's based off the amount of precious metal that they have inside of their mine.
You know, that's crazy, because that's something I'm sure anyone in crypto has been in it for a little minute knows who Peter Schiff is, right? And even him, like arguably the most famous Bitcoin bear, he said that what people were like, they asked him, like, what's the only thing that would get you to buy Bitcoin? And he's like, if they came out with a version of it that was hard pegged to the gold, like the dollar used to be, but like that. That is absolutely crazy and really brilliant. That would be wild. What if Peter Schiff buys into that, and then all of a sudden it's like a lot of bears just start dropping in the woods?
And they started out at around 20 cents, dropped down to 10 cents, went up to about 30, 40 cents. And right now, I think that it's back down to around 20 cents a share for the stock.
Wow.
So,
do you know if that stock is on the Dow or the New York Exchange, or if it's a OTC stock?
I am not sure about that. We'd have to double check. I know that I had to use TD Ameritrade in order to get to it. And
yeah, it's probably an OTC. That's why I asked, because there's certain levels of security or risk where it's riskier, and that's not as big of a deal. It's more the access points. Like if I wanted to do that, like my main vehicles I use if I'm going to buy equities, I use M1. I like them a lot because I can make diversified pies, and a couple other reasons. I used to use Robinhood, but I honestly use it to track information at this point. And then I have an account with Fidelity because I worked somewhere where I had a retirement before I left. And so if I have to buy OTC stuff, like that's the only way. And like you'll have to go to one of those, bigger brokerages. So that's why I was curious. Also, kind of where you can look at it. If I go to pull up an OTC stock to even get data on it, sometimes I can get it on Robinhood, sometimes not, sometimes on M1. So that's good to know, because that'll let me know where to look. And then that's really interesting. So if I want to like invest in the company, I might just throw it in my Roth over at Fidelity and shit.
It's a good look. And with it being, you know, so low right now and sitting at almost, you know, altcoin prices, at that point,
Yeah.
you're looking at, you know, nothing but gains, depending on how high it's going to get. Now they just launched a crypto wallet and their own cryptocurrency, and they're talking about making it a coin if they haven't already. You know, this.
You know where that'll be available? I wonder if like that sounds more like you're gonna have to go to like a KuCoin or a Binance US or a Uniswap, you know, something. You know, before it goes on
that they have their own exchange, and then it's only available through their exchange. They seem to be doing stuff really first party, in house. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing, you know, depending on.
So basically, like a higher risk kind of penny stock play, but could be a great long term play if you're willing to get in now, where you're getting in mad early. But it's probably going to be jumpy in the short to medium term, I would think, right?
It's got moonshot potential as well, you know.
Yeah.
So let's take a look.
Rewarded for the risks you take, that's for sure.
Right. Let's take a look. So it says that Coinbase sets direct listing April 14th. That they'd pushed back plans from the listing to March. The company's registration statement for the listing has been declared effective. It says that plans are undergoing a review by the SEC. That they had just had an issue right there, and I saw that they came to a $6.5 million settlement with Coinbase, resolving claims that the company had reported inaccurate data. So that means that Coinbase had been driving numbers up. They had been caught using a trade bot on one side to trade to the other side, and then using that trade bot to trade it back and forth in order to make spikes.
I looked into that, and honestly, I believe that it hasn't been a thing that they've done, or at least that could be proven within the last few years. It's more for stuff when they were kind of newer. And I don't even remember if they've had some leadership changes since that point. I think the main cat's always been the leader of it regardless, but I think maybe some like of the other leadership changed since that point.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, he's dope, man.
He looks like the evil dude from Despicable Me.
That's a good description.
Yeah. Don't get me. You know, he's a powerful man now. I don't want. Don't come and get me, Brian.
Yeah, man, leave my Cardano alone. I ain't trying to get hacked.
Just Coinbase is planning to go public. It's valued at $90 billion in the final week of trading. In addition to the exchange, Coinbase operates a digital coin custody business, keeping holdings safe for institutions. Interesting stuff. So
I definitely think it's an amazing stock to buy once it settles down. But yeah, I definitely, you know, I don't know. I guess if you're a swing trader, try and ride that little wave up. I personally don't like doing a lot of swing trading. I would wait until it corrects in a few months and then pick it up cheap, and it should be a great long-term hold.
Yeah, I'm feeling the exact same way. You know, kind of like we were talking about earlier. I don't think that that I'm willing to jump out of this market in crypto right now to concentrate any of my efforts pretty much anywhere else. And it's
not currently. No, it's so risky in the stock market right now with the type of bubble it is, and I don't think it's there. But ultimately, right now, the only thing I feel like that's going to end the bull run early would be if the stock market completely crashed. So I look at it like if you're in crypto or the stock market, you're kind of taking the same level of risk for the rest of this cycle. But the rewards on the crypto side of it for the rest of this bull cycle are crazier, far crazier than anything the best stock is going to get you. So it just doesn't make sense for me to re-enter the equities markets until, you know, September, October, debatably on whenever you think the bull run's going to end, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. So next thing I want to talk about is Uniswap. Uniswap version 3 coming out. Team revealed the details for it. They're saying that the new details about Uniswap iteration version 3 were made public on Tuesday. That they're expected to launch on Ethereum May 5th in Optimism in May. So Optimism is the new coding language from Solidity. They're saying that Optimism is very similar to Solidity. So it'd be interesting to see how much of a lag there is on that, and you know, kind of what happens, because everybody's teaching Solidity right now. A lot of the blockchain developers, DApp universities, the guys who are out here kind of pitching, you learn blockchain and you know such and such. Now all those courses are they? all those hours.
It will kind of give us a little preview of what Berlin might look like in July, right? Or at least portions of it for those layer 2 solutions. You think?
You would think.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm probably as close to an Ethereum maximalist as you go find.
I'm with it. And when we were just talking, I had been talking to somebody about creating a Tron coin, and I talked to my new dev, and he was immediately like, "No, we're not doing anything but Ethereum." He's like, "But thank you for asking."
I like that guy already. He sounds like a genius.
So the third iteration of market-leading decentralized exchange Uniswap is coming this spring. According to new details, the so-called version 3 launch is published Tuesday. And this is, let's see, this is from the 23rd. So Uniswap 3.0 is out right now. I went over to it. Felt like it moved nice. Seemed just as stable as ever. Same interface, darker interface rather than the light. But I might have picked that myself. I don't know.
Did it affect the gas fees at all?
Not yet. Not yet.
That's more the EI. What is it? 338 or something like that.
Yeah. And what is that? The EIP.
I know there's that thing in July where there's the Berlin fork, and then that's supposed to, create the deflationary mechanism for Ethereum. And I know Optimism, because you brought that up, is going to be a part of fixing some of the gas fees. But I couldn't remember if there was something about the version 3 that helped with layer 2 solutions. I think I'm probably getting some stuff mixed up, but that's cool to hear that it's working well. I like Uniswap as a coin and an exchange in general.
Yeah, totally. And I don't think that this is gonna affect any of the swap stuff. I think that it makes their exchange faster though, and then they up the amount of stuff. But because the new approach effectively makes the job of liquidity provider more capital efficient. Said that the liquidity provider can direct their liquidity towards the price range at which trades are occurring, and in turn earn a higher rate of return for their capital.
That's fantastic.
Because you can put up the same amount of capital to earn more fees, or use margin capital saved to invest in any other strategy choice. So
that's awesome. I definitely need to go look at that later.
That's a big one right now. People are using, trade bots and multiple trade bots at one time and borrowing a whole bunch of money, trading it off, and then paying back the loan before the trade finishes, basically.
That's fantastic. I just recently, the last month, experimented with a bot I had 2 bots on just to experiment with it on KuCoin. I had one that was trading USDC to BTC, and then I had another ETH one, and the timing was good. They did great, and I like the way that KuCoin has their bot set up. It's cool, but it's cool to know that there's other places where you can do it. I want to try and Uniswap's one of the other ones that I haven't really honestly used. other than I've invested in the coin previously because I believe in them. I'd like to start exploring, actually using their decks more and everything like that. I didn't realize that. I thought that was kind of unique to KuCoin, but obviously that makes sense that it's not.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, a lot of these different exchanges and different you know, kind of providers or whatever use a lot of the same methodologies. You'll see it, you'll catch it from one side, and then you'll realize that, you know, it's kind of the norm. Whether it's, you know, burn tokenomics or, you know, whatever methodologies that that's hot at the time. And when stuff starts to catch on, you kind of see everybody start to parrot it. You know,
but yeah, I mean, it makes sense, especially how quickly things change in it and it being a newer space. I have also been experimenting with and really liked on the other side of that, where KuCoin, I'm sure there's other dexes like that have this opportunity where you could be the loaner on the other side. So they have like different day rates, and it's like daily compounded interest basically. And I've just been loaning out. You can loan out all kinds of stuff, pretty much anything you could think of. You can loan out Cardano, BTC, all that. I've been loaning out just USDC. And then they take 15% to insure the loan on KuCoin. And you can end up getting back by the time they take it out. If, say, you loan it out for 28 days, like anywhere between 15 and 20% returns on the loans that you're loaning out, which is pretty cool. And they have auto loans too, where you can have a bot that just recycles the loan for you, and you set a cap number.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and those staking possibilities are just absolutely endless right now, and the returns are incredible. They're what my grandmother described the returns being like when I was younger from the government trying to entice people to hold their money inside of the banking system at the time. So back in the 1940s and that, you know, and this is all very similar. You know, I've called this several times the gold rush. You know, this is another gold rush. This is another opportunity where they are resetting the generational wealth of what's going on. And, you know, I talk about the gold rush all the time, and the fact of that they wanted people who were the hardest core, you know, the people who were willing to get down on their knees and dig through the dirt and find gold trinkets and bring it back to the government in exchange for paper. You know, those people to entice the other people around them, or the people who are willing to sit in the bushes, wait for those fools to run past them, shoot them in the back and grab the stuff and bring it to them. And that's what made all the rich people at that time, you know, and that's why you see a lot of the rich people who are generationally rich right now being still that way. They're the most snide, hardcore, you know, people who like to hog and like to compete for wealth. Where most people,
great metaphor for the situation. There's a third person, because and this ties back to something you brought up earlier with that AABB stock. So there's a term that they use in investing called a miner's tools play that comes from that era where there was a lot of cats, right, who went to actually dig for the gold. Like you said, they got shot in the back or it got took, or they never found gold and they just wasted. But like there's these cats who were like, hey, let me just sell picks and let me just sell shovels and let me just sell gold pans and all that. And they ended up making more money than anybody in the gold rush. So there's different plays and investments where you can think, like an example would be, instead of buying Tesla stock, buy a copper ETF, because all the electric cars are made of about 80% copper. Or in this case, you know, buy stuff that ties into the actual mining of it and things like that, or the actual tools around what people are using, you know, to plan. But I love that metaphor because I think you're exactly right. It's a really good metaphor. And so, and that's cool when you look at it that way, because there's a lot of ways you can play it that you can go back and see and kind of take some of those same principles and apply it to your strategy about the current, you know, environment with this.
So when you look at it now, they're doing it a little bit different way. What they want is they want people who are smart. They want people who are willing to work computers and technologically savvy enough to understand what's going on inside of this. And they want them to be the new people who are the catalysts and who are leading the other people in order to have early adoption of this. Because what blockchain technology actually is it's a brand new internet. It's Web 3.0. And it's a way of sectioning off the internet because back in the day when they first created the internet was kind of wide open and kind of dumb, right? So
Yeah, it was all like military technology prior to that, and then when it started becoming public, it was like, you're right, it was kind of wild because it was just
so basically what happens right now is your computer protocols, right? It sends a message and it asks for access to the internet on, I think it's ports 88 and like, what is it, 1047 or 40? I can't remember the ports off hand. Look them up. And so those ports, it accesses those ports, and then it accesses the internet. And so it has to wait for its request to get filled in the place that it's trying to go. And then it has to take you there to where it's going or whatever and drop you off. And that's why the internet has to sit there and load and do that stuff so much. Well, what blockchain technology is doing is it's giving you a little slice of that internet on where you actually live. So if you look at it, they say that they're called oracles, right? And that your protocol,
like Chainlink,
the oracle. And what those oracles are, have you ever worked at a call center or ever been on a phone?
Oh, yeah, a million times. I just quit from one, but yeah, over a decade on and off, I've worked definitely at call centers.
And so they give you an Oracle ID, and that accesses your intranet.
Yeah, I've had several of those.
Instead of your internet. The internet is available to everybody. The intranet only accesses off of the servers that live inside of the office. So exactly what they're doing is you're accessing your Oracle for that space in order to go to that direct space. And once
that's brilliant, because the level of security and things you can do with that, because obviously if you've ever worked at a major corporation, at a call center, or anywhere that does what you're talking about there, where they have their own intranet, they'll have their own like proprietary software that does a lot of complex data operations that would have infinite possibilities beyond logging how many people yell at you a day or whatever, right? And then the level of security that you get with that is obviously next level compared to most of us out here with a vast just trying to get on Comcast on the internet and hope that it goes okay.
So, being a telecommunications design engineer by trade, you know, I'm looking at blockchain technology and I'm going, okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on in this. There's currencies, there's tokens, there's actual development, fundamental, foundational developments to be able to build infrastructures of different I don't know, programs or whatever you want to call them, right? Different things that you can do. And right now we're kind of scratching at the surface. You know, I was talking to Ellis on the 810, Antelope Fisherman, the other day, and what he said, he was like, yeah, man, he said, this is a lot like the app boom, where people were creating all of these apps, and the apps that you see nowadays, all of those apps that first came out are no longer existing. But a lot of people went out and bought those apps right when they first came out or whatnot because it was the only thing you can access. It's the same thing. I use the reference for the 4K television. When I first bought a 4K television, nobody else had them, and there wasn't too much you could do with them. But Netflix had a couple of 4K things you could do, and most of them were nature documentaries because everybody used 4K film to get the best shots of the monkey you could see, right? So
that makes sense too. If you think about that industry, they've had the best cameras.
Watch all these fish swim across my 4K TV. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it looks lifelike. You can almost touch them. And you're like, okay, well, I'm done with this. Turn off the TV.
You're right. That's wild.
So, you know, eventually these tokens that we're seeing right now, you know, and they talked about it in that show, on Hulu, what's it called? Cryptopia. They said, they said, you know, 70 to 80% of all the altcoins that are out right now are shit coins. Straight up. 70 to 80% of the technology that's happening right now will not be around again in the next 5 years.
No, definitely. I 100% agree with that. You see that every time the cycle closes out. Michael Saylor made a great, obviously he's a super Bitcoin maximalist to the point where he's still like, I don't know about Ethereum, which I like it a lot because of what you said, because I do believe it will be Internet 3.0 and the network effect. But to what you were saying, like he compared it to a bunch of small IPOs like during the .com boom, because this is like the internet starting over again. And so it's like, yo, is the coin you're buying today gonna be with their use case and the way they use the blockchain technology gonna be Amazon at $5 a share? You know, the next Amazon, or is it gonna be the next I don't know, Ask Jeeves, or just think of some like, you know, thing that didn't survive the .com boom, you know?
Yeah. No, and that's the whole thing is a lot of it is going to be the next Axe Jeeves. You know, a lot of it is going to be history, and some of it's going to be worth money in history. And that's where you saw all that NFT, the second summer of NFT that we just went through or whatnot, or that we might be still going through. I think NFTs are going to taper off a little bit. And I think that NFTs are going to be widely utilized for the replacement of ISRCs, basically. So instead of you going and scanning a barcode and selling your music like that, instead you're going to have these $1 and $2 NFTs that people are buying all the time as you sell your music and sell your songs. And then you're going to have your royalties that are directly embedded inside of the blockchain, so that anytime that song is played and
the streaming industry, because if you look at what Jack Dorsey did, so he bought Tidal from Jay-Z, and as a part of the deal, Jay-Z's on the board for Square now, and obviously they hold a lot of Bitcoin. Jack Dorsey did that NFT of the first tweet ever, and so he's really into the space. And when you look at how that's revaluing music and solving the problem that Napster created a long time ago for that industry, and then you see that kind of a power move, I really think that Tidal will start to take leaps and bounds in competing with Spotify, because while he hasn't outright said it, if you look at those moves, that would all point to, it would be a pretty easy correlation to say that, like, he's likely going to be one of the forerunners, I think, of embedding the NFT blockchain technology into fixing the monetization of music and streaming issues that you see with Spotify, where you're getting half a cent or whatever, you know.
I agree. And if it's not him, it's going to be somebody else. Because no matter what, you know, and people keep saying, oh, well, what do you think about cryptocurrency? What do you think about cryptocurrency? I think cryptocurrency is cool. I think that right now there's a mad gold rush. And I think that a lot of people are trying to get a lot of what they call confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence inside of the crypto stratosphere, inside of these coins, inside of this different stuff, right? Anytime that they launch a currency, they have to have confidence. And that's what the gold rush was about. They wanted people to run out and grab gold, but they didn't care about the gold. You can tell that right now because the Federal Reserve has no gold inside of it. They only wanted the confidence inside of the paper. Will you give me your goat for this piece of paper?
Right. And if you look at what's happening to gold's market cap and how it's performing, and silver too, even though it has more of a manufacturing use case, so honestly it doesn't correlate specifically to gold as much as people would think. It's kind of a misnomer. It does, but not on the level a lot of people would think. Then yeah, you definitely see that. And that's where I think that it's smart and this show focuses on the technology. That's really what changes it, but it also could put you in a mindset that, well, I think Bitcoin is a life-changing long-term investment because it's obviously digital gold at this point, and I think it will replace physical gold eventually. The real thing where you could make the most money is just like the gold rush. The people who made by far the most money in that were people who set up shop to sell the things to the miners that they needed. So if you're involved in the technology or investing in things that are around the actual infrastructure, the technology, and you make the right bets on that, then you're not going to have to worry as much about, 80-90% of these shit coins that are just really, maybe you'll make a swing trade amount of money in a cycle on them, but aren't going to probably do you the best service on a long-term investment,
Yeah. And it's going to be depending on, do all these ERC20 tokens keep on being the norm? Is Ethereum still going to be the foundational principle that everybody's using? I mean, there's so many things that are going to change. There's so many technologies that are going to come out. There's going to be so many people who are launching all of these coins, as you saw what Binance did, Crypto.com did. Everybody is making a coin now instead of a token. The difference between tokens and coins is that a coin can be built on And a token, just for people who aren't unfamiliar with the process, tokens are just actual cryptocurrency that you can spend at a specific reason. You know, it has a use case. Token has a use case. A coin is a foundational build.
And beyond the tokens, what you bring up, one of the biggest things, and obviously July will be really telling, is really what's going to become, you know, Web 3.0. Is Charles Hoskins and Cardano going to eventually? I really don't think it'll be this cycle as much as people will hype it, even though I do think Cardano has use and could coexist, and same with Polkadot, right? Or Binance. Or
Yep.
Binance.
Is Gavin going to come in with Polkadot? You know, he was one of the original guys on Ethereum. He was one of the original devs. He launched the first block on the blockchain of Ethereum, and he was the person who
started off with them too, if I'm not mistaken, too, right?
Huh?
I believe Charles Hoskins from Cardano also started off on the early days of Ethereum.
Started off, and he left within 3 months of the development. Gavin stayed all the way through, and then launched the first block, wrote the white papers, wrote the yellow papers, and then got Vitalik. Said that he thought that he could do what Vitalik did better than him, and that he thought that it should be more open source rather than more inclusive, rather than exclusive. And he didn't like the way that the gas stuff was going on, and so he left the company with the idea that he was going to make a better Ethereum.
That's really funny that when you point out those differences, because that sounds exactly like the difference between Apple and Android, right? You know what I mean? Open source versus we're going to keep it closed, and that sort of a thing.
Sounds very, very similar to that same exact story that you mentioned Apple, but before that, Microsoft and Apple, and who was the third person? I can't remember there was a third person, though, who completely phased out, but then Bill Gates and Steve Jobs went back and forth, didn't they? And eventually, a lot of people thought Microsoft won that battle, but Steve Jobs came raging back before he died, didn't he? So it's very interesting. What's going to happen?
Nowadays, they both coexist. Honestly, if someone was like, you know, I'm going to invest in Microsoft and Apple, and I'm going to hold it long term, or should I not do one or whatever? I'd be like, man, either one of them are probably solid long term investments. I mean, you can argue which one would be a better one if you had to pick, but quite frankly, I'd say, you know, if you had both of those in your portfolio. And I think that's kind of how I view Ethereum and Cardano and probably Polkadot too. Is like all three of them could coexist in your portfolio and could be good long term. I do think Ethereum, and why I have my largest bets placed there, is because of Metcalfe's law, which basically, in simpler terms, it's an investing principle, but really has to do with networks. And the network effect that Ethereum has established gives them a huge advantage. It doesn't mean the other ones can't coexist or even overtake them at some point, but it gives them such a large advantage, especially with the large relationships they have with like Amazon Cloud Service and stuff, that when there's all this FUD, when people get really hyped on that other stuff, like Ethereum's going to die because it went sideways for 2 months, it's like, no, if you look at like, you know, Wright's law and Metcalfe's law, like I really believe that, you know, Ethereum is going to be here for a long time to come, and it'll be a major player in Web 3.0. I think regardless of what happens with the coins or any of that.
You know? Yeah. And you know what? I think that all of these guys are going to find use cases for their foundational principles. Like you mentioned, the Apple stuff that's going on with Cardano right now. Polkadot is launching their own stuff, and they've got Kusama and all of these crazy, you know, things that they're coming out with, these staking things that you have to have 40 Kusama and all that. With Ethereum too, they're saying that you have to have, what was it? Is it 20 or 40 Ethereum before you have to have staked before you can do different stuff?
Yeah, you can even on Coinbase. Just recently this month was the first time I noticed it. And I don't know if it happened just this month, but I want to say that it was. But even on Coinbase now, and obviously by the time something gets there, it's way more in the mainstream. But you can already stake your Ethereum too on the layer 2 there, and you have to stake it through, I believe, 2022. But they already have that there. I think actually it's just you have to stake it until layer 2 fully rolls out. And it says on there, it could be that you stake it and they estimate it from 2022 to 2024. I think it would be at the lower end of that, because obviously if you don't push forward with that quick enough, then Polkadot or Cardano could really get a leg up on you.
Yeah. So in the last 10 minutes, let's talk about what we think is going to happen, where the next craze is going to go. We just recently finished DEXs, decentralized exchanges. They went crazy for a minute. You saw the pancakes and the sushis and the unis and all of those coins all going up. The KuCoins, the
Binance.
Yep, and then there was yield staking. You saw the PSCs and the all of those, the Tezoses, all of that stuff, going up real big. My next thought process is that we're headed into gaming. It seems like casinos are popping right now. Recently,
there's a lot around that space digitally too, because DraftKings, MGM, and they're now reopening their resorts has one. There's one called the Gold Nugget has a gambling app. The list goes on, but even outside of crypto, so I could see that tying in. There's a just ton of that getting legalized everywhere, and even in the equities market, there's a lot of great buys right now that could be good in the short and the long term in that arena.
Straight up. And I'm thinking also, not just casinos and gaming, but regular gaming. People want to get paid. They want to get paid for esports. They want to get paid for their hobbies. There's a lot of money right now inside of Twitch and inside of streaming and all of that. I think that it might come our way in the entertainment facet, where maybe some shows are being done, whether it's just online, whether it's in a 3D space, or whether it's in full virtual reality. With the lowering of the price of the Quest Oculus, the new Quest Oculus 2 is $299.99.
That's affordable. That's like not even quarter. That's like what, maybe a little over about a quarter of a STEMI check, not even quite.
And it's 2K in each eye, meaning it's 4K resolution. You can watch anything on it and play full virtual reality video games.
That's amazing.
With the introduction of that, they have started making virtual interaction spaces where you were able to create virtual models yourself, or 3D model using Blender or whatever, character generator in Adobe or however you want to do it, and import
those. You think Decentraland would tie into that? I know sometimes it's more looked at as NFT space, but do you think, and it's one example that I'm most familiar with in the digital real estate space, that would kind of play into this, right?
Very big. Yeah, absolutely. That's where all of this is heading. And right now, Decentraland has kind of have you played Decentraland?
No, I never have, but I did make a little bit on the coin. I liquidated it, but not for any reason that I didn't believe in the coin. I just needed to reinvest in my business and stuff. But I like the coin, and I like the idea in general. I think that obviously buying skins and tools and swords, etc., on these app games, and I think tying into that in digital real estate is has huge potential. So that's why I really like the use case for it. But I've never played it. Is it? I guess it's like The Sims, kind of, for lack of it. I don't know. I probably sound completely out of touch with that.
You know what it really reminds me of? Right when I dropped in, it is kind of Simish in the gameplay, but right when I dropped in, I thought, man, this seems very familiar. Where do I recognize this from? And I recognize it from the Wii. When you first create your character inside of the Wii with the little head, it's kind of like fun and kind of like Japanese, like Hawaii, kind of more good-natured than anything else. There's not a lot of strong anything to it. It's more, Robloxy, kind of that feeling. And then once you turn the textures up, it kind of goes from a Minecraft look to a little bit more texture, a little bit more pizzazz to it. So it'll be interesting where it goes. And I think that a lot of the early adoption stuff that people are buying right now is going to look really cool in the future when everything's, super awesome and you can pull out a sword that was the first sword that was ever made inside of, Decentraland or whatnot.
The esports space too and everything is interesting that you bring up, because I'm sure anybody in the crypto is probably familiar with Cappy Wood from Ark Invest, because she was one of the earliest really mainstream people, quote unquote mainstream, to buy a lot of the Grayscale trust as far as Bitcoin, is really bullish on that and disruptive technology in general. I love the Ark Invest funds for that reason, because she sees that even not just blockchain, it's one thing, but there's so many disruptive technologies. We're almost like at the beginning of the 1900s on the level of there's things coming out that will be as revolutionary as the car, the airplane, that sort of thing. And she's really big into this company called Skills that's tied into esports. And definitely one of her funds, I forget which one, there's 5 different ones, and they're all kind of like on 3D printing and things like that, was heavily in that area. And she really liked this really cheap stock called Skills I did pretty well with, and I like her fund. So I pay attention to when she's super bullish on any kind of disruptive technology. Her and her team are brilliant, and they've gotten 100% returns in the last 5 years, while a lot of the traditional Wall Street people who would be real similar to Bitcoin bears are like, no, they're crazy. You can't just keep buying Tesla stock and all this and that. But like, they keep getting proved wrong over and over again. So anytime she's like, hey, this is going to disrupt things, and I'm, and she puts her money where her mouth is, and you can see she's open. If you can go for free, whether or not you invested, it's to Ark Invest, sign up, and she'll send you a letter what she invests. And she started investing in that space, I want to say even 6 months ago, really heavily.
And you know what? I followed her into Butterfly Networks, and then I just sat there for a long time, so that sucked. So shout her out.
You know what I like to do is I don't like to chase her plays, because unlike, say, you buy the S&P 500 and that's passively managed, right? So it's not going to do a lot or whatever. She actively and has that team making the research and makes great plays with the stuff. And right now, in this like short term where everyone's freaking out about inflation, you can get a lot of technical stuff at really great discounts that's going to play out amazingly well over the next 5 years. I love just buying all 5 of her funds, and she's coming out with a space one, because as long as you just don't, stare at it every day and look at the red days, and you have it on a 5-year timeline, like she just bodies it, and then I don't have to worry about it. I can like focus on my coins and all that other stuff, because she's like, it's all good. I got you. I'm gonna find the next disruptive thing. Like, her track record's amazing, and she's super transparent with what she does. But I like that, because she, makes it easier for you to not have to do so much work.
I like it. Well, we're almost up out of here. I got to tell the people, you know what? Go to Mintable. Check out Ellis and the 810's brand new NFT, the pink. He's got, I think he's got an appearance from the fish. Man, it's gonna be a whole thing. And that's on Mintable. The link will be in and on urbansurvivorman.com. And also, we got Crypt Assignment. You can check that out on OpenSea. More NFTs, more fire. Diction Uno, you are the man. I appreciate you, brother. That was an awesome convo.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, man. And may everybody go to the moon. That's all. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Hey, man, I got to get you back, and definitely we got to get the homies on. So.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, man. Congratulations to the great show. And I think it's wonderful that you focus on the technology. I think the gains are great. And let's face it, like anyone who says they're not there for that on some level, they are. But the technology itself is probably vastly more important. So I love what you're doing. It's a great show.
My guy. Appreciate you, brother. We're going to take it out with the crypto trade bot. Stay with me real quick too, brother, and we'll talk. And
all right.
I'm UnBlocked.